So coming up next weekend is going to be UFC 301 Pantoja versus Erceg, and of course it is going to be taking place in Brazil and will be a pay-per-view card. This is a pretty early prediction video, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to create a follow-up video because I do have a very busy week coming up next week. I just had a math exam, literally about an hour and a bit ago. It was an absolute disaster, but we won't talk about that. And I've got another exam next week and a couple of assignments due on the weekend of this event, actually. So I've just got a lot of stuff going on at the moment. I don't know if I'm going to be able to record before the time that I'd normally upload a video. So I'm just going to do a quick predictions video before the weekend and before my very busy period of time is going to continue, and also, I guess, start with my assignments that I haven't done yet. But anyway, of course, before I do get into my predictions, I did want to shout out the We Want Picks Premium membership. It is $10 per month, but if you sign up using my code, you will get a 3-day free trial, so you can check out everything that is there, as well as supporting my channel as well. And you get my article every week, as well as Angelo's bets, Jacob's bets, premium stuff in the Discord, which is great. There's a free Discord with over 6,000 members if you wanted to join. And also, of course, they've got the tools that can help you make your own bets and also look into the card as well. Kicking off the card, which I'm assuming is not the finalized order. I don't think this will kick off the card, but this is what Tapology has at the time of me recording, is our Ismael Bonfim taking on Vinc Pichel. I think this matchup has actually been booked in the past and just didn't work out, and now they're doing it again. Of course, since Bonfim did lose to Benoit Saint-Denis. At that time, I was very disappointed in the loss, but I guess the loss hasn't aged too badly, as Benoit did have a lot of success against Poirier, and of course, before that, did have a pretty great run up the rankings in only a few weeks' time. I think Bonfim's the real deal. He's a national boxing champion. I believe he even got a belt in professional boxing, or maybe that was his brother, but the point is he's got a professional boxing background, an amateur boxing background as well, as a national champion in Brazil. And you do see that in his striking, which is why I did pick him to beat Nariman Abasov, and then why I picked him to beat Terence McKinney. And of course, he pieced up Abasov over 3 rounds, and he pieced up McKinney and knocked him out. Sparko. I think that he should be able to do the same sort of thing to Pichel here. I know that Pichel's going to want to take the fight down to the ground, but ultimately, I just don't think he's as good at striking as Ismael Bonfim is. So I think that's kind of just what it's going to come down to. And I just think that Bonfim's just going to outbox him. I think that Bonfim's going to knock him out as well. I know Pichel is a tough dude. I was actually going to say, I think he's only been KO'd once, and he has been KO'd once, and it was a long time ago. Okay, it was in 2012. I actually thought he got KO'd recently, but it was just a loss to Mark Madsen. I don't know. I just think that we're going to see Bonfim when he's a minus 450 favorite, which is why I didn't break it down too much. And now Mauricio Ruffy is going to be taking on Jamie Mullarkey, and this fight is going to be at 155 pounds, which is somewhat interesting to me because Mauricio Ruffy, of course, fought at 170 pounds on the Contender Series, and he beat Raymond Magomedaliev, and I picked Raymond Magomedaliev in that fight, but man, Raymond, he gassed out really badly in that fight, and I really thought that Raymond was going to have a lot more success in the wrestling in that matchup than he did, because of course Raymond had success in Eagle FC and also won championship prior to that Contender Series matchup, and Mauricio Ruffy ended up finishing him off in the 3rd round after Raymond death gassed, like he does in all of his fights. But I thought that Ruffy wasn't going to be able to defend the takedowns like he did, and he did. He looked good. He's a dangerous guy on the feet, and honestly, that scares me because I like Jamie Mullarkey. I do. I think that Jamie Mullarkey is a guy that did have, at one point, a lot of potential to make a run, and I think that he probably still does, but unfortunately, he has had a couple of pretty bad losses recently that definitely have set him back a little bit. The loss to Muhammad Naimov is a really bad look, in my opinion. I know that you look at Naimov and you see him, he's 3-0 in the UFC. Naimov took that fight on 3 days' notice, upper weight class. Bad look for Mullarkey. I understand it hasn't aged badly, but it is a bad look, in my opinion, with the short notice. And then he got KO'd by Nasrat Haqparast, and Nasrat Haqparast isn't really knocking people out, and you could even argue that he robbed John McDessie in Australia, and I was at that event, and I wasn't convinced Jamie Mullarkey won. But to be fair, I was in the stands. I wasn't really up close and personal. I do think that Mauricio Ruffy is going to land on Mullarkey, and I think he's going to knock him out. I think that there is defense issues with Mullarkey. I think there's chin issues with Mullarkey. He's a tough guy, but I just don't know if he can take the shots that Mauricio Ruffy's going to be landing on him. And Mauricio is going to be a big guy at 155. Hasn't really fought the best guys in his career, but I think he's going to land. I think he's going to land on that chin of Mullarkey. He doesn't have the best defense. we're going to be getting Mauricio here at minus 170, which is relatively close, but also kind of not. We'll move on. Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Iasmin Lucindo. Lucindo's like minus 300 in this fight, and I'm really tempted to pick against her because I think that Lucindo's overrated. I'm just going to say it, man. I genuinely do. I think that she does win this fight, but I do not think that you should be putting any money on Iasmin Lucindo at minus 300 odds against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who, yes, is very old, is old enough to be my mother, actually, which is crazy to think about, but she's on a 4-fight win streak, beat Heroic, was on a losing streak, and then after that, just kind of went on a little bit of a run. You could argue she lost to Gomis Warriors, which isn't a good look, and then she beat Dione Barbosa as an underdog. Who could have really thought that was going to happen, or maybe she wasn't the dog, but I'm pretty confident I didn't pick Karolina to win that fight. But Lucindo, everyone talks about Lucindo as if she's like this really good prospect, and she is because she's so young. She's only 22 years old, but her boxing is not as good as people think that it is. Her boxing, especially if you watch this Iasmin Jauregui fight, which people gas up so much. Lucindo's striking was so sloppy in that matchup, man. All she was doing was throwing hooks, and her chin was way up in the air. Jauregui just pieced her up in that matchup, and yes, she made it a scrap, but she didn't really make it a scrap because she was having a lot of her own success. And then she beats Broken Walker, who is terrible, and then she beat Poliana Viana, which is a good win as well, I guess, but I don't think Viana's main hustle is fighting, but I'll kind of just leave it there. I don't know. I think that Karolina Kowalkiewicz could have a lot of success in this matchup with her wrestling and grappling and her striking, but I know that Lucindo is a very good grappler, and I know that she's a tough striker. I don't think that she's got very good technique whatsoever, and I don't think she's worth betting on at minus 300. So with very low confidence, I'm going to pick Lucindo to beat Karolina, just because I think that she is also going to throw significantly more volume than Karolina Kowalkiewicz is going to as well. So yeah, I'm just going to go with Lucindo to outpoint Karolina, but minus 300, I would not be putting money on that, man. Gene Silva taking on William Gomis, and my goodness, Gene Silva. Oh, he's an interesting bloke, isn't he? This might be the prediction video of hot takes. It kind of just occurred to me. So we've got Gene Silva here as the favorite, minus 135, and William Gomis plus 115. I'm going to pick William Gomis as the underdog in this matchup here, and the reason why it's probably going to be the video of hot takes is, as I said, my math exam, it was a disaster, so I'm not really in the best mood at all at the moment. So I'm going to probably say a lot of my little takes, my little hot takes that I don't really make super public, and one of them is I don't think, once again, Gene Silva is that good. The best thing about Gene Silva is his aggressiveness, and that's it. That's kind of all he's really got. He's not a very technical striker for 145 pounds whatsoever. I don't think he's really got the best grappling either, and I don't understand. I don't think that he's going to be able to just go out there and knock William Gomis out in the first round. Now, the problem with picking William Gomis is, and I feel like a lot of fighters that are French, that are like William Gomis, such as Morgan Charrier, such as, there's another guy as well, but William Gomis is definitely one of them. They are very, very good defensive fighters, but they do, Taylor Lapis, but they do nothing. They're all super, super low volume strikers. I mean, these guys are just defenders and not offense. There's no offense coming from these guys. These guys don't score points. You could argue that Gomis didn't win that Francis Marshall fight because he did nothing, and then he beat Giannis Gamori, but Gamori's a bantamweight that took that fight on super short notice, upper weight class. And now he's going to be taking on Gene Silva, who I think does potentially have the ability to gas out in this matchup. Now, the problem with me saying that is I have seen him go a hard 3 rounds before, because he did fight a very hard 3 rounds against Kevin Vallejos. And then he took on Weston Wilson, but Weston Wilson's a human punching bag. I feel like if I lost the kilos, which would be a boatload, I'd probably have to I'd have to lose a lot of pounds. But I genuinely believe that if me and Weston Wilson were both the same weight, I could also knock out Weston Wilson. That guy is probably the worst striker in the UFC right now. Gene Silva knocking out Weston Wilson is not impressive to me whatsoever. I think William Gomis, if he can avoid the strikes, he's going to slow down Gene Silva. He's going to frustrate Gene Silva. Gomis can offensively wrestle and grapple as well. I think he kind of can go to that. Let me know. I mean, there's a good chance I'm going to be wrong and I'm going to look like an idiot, but I just feel like if Gene Silva... Okay, this isn't even a hot take. was going to say, because I feel like if Gene Silva doesn't knock him out in the first round, he's going to lose the fight. And 68% of people are picking Gomis. I should have looked at the votes. There's not even a hot take whatsoever. I've got another one as well. Elves Brener taking on Myktybek Oralbai. I really wanted to pick Brener. In fact, I was about to pick Brener until I actually went back and watched tape on Oralbai. And this was literally minutes before I started recording the video. It was probably 20 minutes ago at the time of me recording right now that I started to watch tape on Oralbai as a last-minute pick, because I was going to pick Brener as the dog. Oralbai, although they're at the same height, Oralbai is going to be so much bigger than this guy, man. I watched Oralbai's fight against Urish Medic, and although I'll be honest, I wasn't that impressed, but I do understand that it was a very short notice fight. Once again, like a 4 or 5 days notice fight. I wasn't that impressed with Oralbai. He was struggling to take down Medic. He did get him down, and once he did get him down, he did control, but he was struggling to get him down. And also at moments, he was getting hit with uppercuts, he was getting hit with hooks, he was getting hit with knees, and that's what Brener's going to do. Brener's going to be throwing those things on the feet because he's a shooter box guy. He's going to be throwing the elbows, you know, he's going to be throwing uppercuts and knees to defend the takedowns. He's got that Muay Thai striking style, and he's going to be aggressive. However, the size difference is unbelievable in this fight. It's unreal. Honestly, I didn't realize how much bigger Oralbai is actually going to be than Elves Brener. I genuinely believe, I genuinely fully believe this, and I know that it could be the case because he's done it before. I think Elves Brener could fight at featherweight. I genuinely believe that. I think he's too small for 155, especially against a massive lightweight, Myktybek Oralbai. And I know you can do this, and this is what I was going to do picking Brener. I was going to look to the Guram Kutatelidze fight, and I was going to say, did you see how many takedowns he defended against Guram? It was amazing. It was unbelievable. Showed some of the best takedown defense out of anyone we've ever seen from shooter box. And of course, if you're going to be on the feet with Brener, that shooter box style, it's going to absolutely rip apart Myktybek Oralbai, which it will if Oralbai keeps this fight standing. But Oralbai is no idiot. Oralbai is going to shoot for takedowns. And honestly, although I do think that if Brener and Oralbai were the same size, I think that Brener would be able to defend the takedowns. But these guys are not going to be the same size on fight night. Oralbai, I thought he looked bigger than Medic. Medic is a former lightweight. He is. I do understand that. I think he looked bigger than Medic. I think he's going to look 10 times the size of Brener. I think he's going to be able to take him down. I think he's going to be able to control him. I'm going to go Oralbai by decision, but close. Because I think there's going to be an argument that Brener could win. Because I think he is... Even though the fight might not be on the feet for long, he's going to be piecing up Oralbai. He's going to cut him open as well. And he might even do the old Charlie Olives and throw out their little elbows when he's on bottom. You never know. I'm going with Oralbai by decision though, but I'm telling you guys, this is a close fight. Oralbai is the favorite though. He's minus 230. I wouldn't bet him at minus 230. I feel like if you're going to bet this fight, I think you got to bet the underdog. I wanted to pick the dog. I did. It'd be interesting to see how many people are going to be on the underdog in Elves Brener this weekend. Now Joanderon Brito is going to be fighting Jack Shaw, and I'm pretty confident that Joanderon Brito wins this one. Joanderon Brito, you look at the odds, minus 170, Jack Shaw plus 145. I know that you can look at Jack Shaw and you can see that he's 17-1. I think he went 16-0 as an amateur as well. Former bantamweight. Jack Shaw, I'm going to say it. I hate Jack Shaw at 145 pounds. This guy is a bantamweight. This guy is not a featherweight. I'm telling you. This guy, he's got no muscle mass to make 145 pounds make sense to him. Look at the photos together. Jack Shaw and Joanderon Brito. You've got Jack Shaw built like a mini Darren Till, and then Joanderon Brito built like The Rock. Like, it's just night and day. Night and day between the two. The muscle mass is just unbelievably different. And sure, he's small at this weight class. He doesn't have the muscle definition to make up for it at 145 either. He's not going to be able to get Joanderon Brito down reliably. I understand Jonathan Pearce did it, but Jonathan Pearce is like 6'1" and absolutely gigantic for 145 pounds. Would probably be a big lightweight if he fought at 155. And Brito submitted him. I think on the feet, dude. I don't think you guys have heard of Cheppy Mariscal, right? Trust me, Joanderon Brito, what he did to Cheppy Mariscal is illegal. It's literally illegal. He took years off Cheppy Mariscal's life. You watch that fight, Brito nearly killed him. Brito is the single most deadly KO loss I've ever seen in my life, and I can't believe that Cheppy Mariscal is still up and fighting today. Brito's got power that we've never really seen before at 145 pounds, aside from, of course, Diego Lopez coming out of nowhere. I think Brito's one of the hardest hitters at this weight class. I think on the feet, I don't think it's going to be that close. I think Brito's going to absolutely smoke him on the feet. Let's move on to the next one. We've got Dione Barbosa taking on Ernesta Karakate. And PTSD from the Contender Series coming up. Karakate is mostly picked, but she is actually a very big underdog. If you look at her, Ernesta Karakate is plus 170 and Dione Barbosa is minus 200. Ernesta Karakate. No one has ever made me look stupider than her, which is why I've got a little bit of a personal beef with her. Not really, to be honest, but I said when she fought Kali Judas that Kali Judas was going to win because Ernesta Karakate, you watch her fight, she is one of the most boring fighters you have ever seen, and she throws like 5 strikes around and does absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. And then she goes in there against Kali Judas, and they put up some of the biggest numbers that the UFC has ever seen in the Contender Series in striking. That was an absolute war. They were both throwing high volume. Ernesta Karakate probably threw more strikes in one round of that fight than she had her entire MMA career. I'm telling you, you watch tape on her, this girl is boring on the feet. Boring. She does nothing. Nothing. And then she goes out there against Charlie Judas and just decides to absolutely scrap it out on the feet. I couldn't really believe what I was seeing, honestly. But now she's taking on Dione Barbosa, and Ernesta Karakate is going to be the significantly better striker in this matchup. The problem with Karakate is I think that she's going to get taken down. I do. She is pretty big for the weight class. She's 5'9", with a 71-inch reach. So she's quite long, and she's got a long reach for the weight class as well. And she does use it well because she's a striker, kickboxer. But Dione Barbosa, I think she's just going to be too good in the grappling. I mean, once again, Dione Barbosa took on Rayen Guerrero on very short notice, who's a scrappy boxer, and she submitted her. And she submitted her with ease. I think that she can get Ernesta Karakate down in this matchup, and I think that she can get the submission. So I'm going to pick Dione Barbosa in this one here. On the feet, it's not even close. But if Karakate does what she normally does outside of the Contender Series, it could be a boring fight. Now Alexandre Costa taking on Kevin Borjas, and once again, this is probably another little bit of a hot take for some reason, because I'm seeing a lot of people online, and especially in that We Want Picks Discord, which you should join, it's free to join, 6,000 plus people in there, on Kevin Borjas. Alexandre Costa is probably one of my most confident picks of the weekend, honestly. I really think that Costa is going to absolutely smoke him. I genuinely do. Alexandre Costa is minus 135. Borjas is plus 115. Keep betting on Borjas because it might be time to put a deposit in for the first time in a long time. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking. I think Costa's got it, man. I think Costa's going to smoke him, dude. Costa's really, really good. He beat Andres Luna Martinez on the Contender Series. He was 12-0 at the time. And then he beat some random dude in like 20 seconds. Lost to Emir Albazi, but took the first round off him because he was outboxing him. KO'd Jimmy Flick in the second round. And then took a round off Steve Erceg, who's fighting in the main event of this one and fighting for the title. And hurt Steve Erceg, gave him problems on the feet. Kevin Borjas is a striker, and this guy is sloppy, man. This guy is so sloppy. He beat Victor Diaz, which is fine, but Victor Diaz is a grappler that just didn't really choose to grapple in that fight. It was frustrating to watch. Bad fight IQ. Actually, no, calm down. Yeah, he's a sloppy striker, man. Joshua Van kind of exposed it, but Joshua Van's fighting Tatsuro Taira. I'm telling you guys, Taira's going to sub him in the first or second round. I'm sorry, Van. I do like you, but I'm just saying how it is. Borjas landed on Van. Borjas is like one of the sloppiest strikers I think we've ever seen at flyweight. And the thing about flyweight is you have to be technical. You have to be. Because these guys are so small. They're all so fast. They're all so technical. They're all so good. Borjas doesn't have that. Borjas is not a technical striker whatsoever. Costa is so much better than him on the feet. Costa is so much more powerful than him on the feet. And more importantly, Costa's grappling is going to be It's going to be so much better than Borralho's. So much better. So if Costa wants to take this down to the ground, he can and he will, easily, without issue whatsoever. I think Costa can submit this guy in the first round. I think Costa can knock this guy out in the first round, man. I don't see it. I don't understand. I'm willing to eat my words. I really am. But I think Costa is going to absolutely smoke him. I really do. I'm going Costa by finish in the first round. I genuinely believe that Costa is a dangerous guy at 125. I think Borralho is sloppy. I think he's hittable. I think he's got bad takedown defense and he's got no grappling. Joachim Silva is taking on Drakkar Klose. I didn't think this one through, actually, prior to recording this video, so I'm kind of getting exposed as a little bit fraudulent, but I did have a math exam this week, and I don't think I've passed it. I really do. Just absolute fumble of all time. I'm going to pick Drakkar Klose. I'm going to pick Drakkar Klose here. I will be honest, this is actually a fight that just kind of slipped my mind because, as I said, I've had a busy week. I'm so busy right now. But Joachim Silva, I mean, he had moments against Arman Tsarukyan, didn't he? Showed good takedown defense in that fight, and especially for a grappler. But I think that Drakkar Klose, you know, he's come out of absolutely nowhere, took a bit of time off, I think, after losing to Benil, KO'd Brandon Jenkins, who just shouldn't have been in the UFC in the first place. Beat Rafa Garcia, which is a good win. Knocked out Joe Solecki with that cool slam, which are back-to-back slams with Cody Brundage getting one as well on that card. But yeah, I think Silva, he's old. I mean, they're both so old, man. Like, these guys are both so old. Not old enough to be my fathers, but like they're getting up there. Like, these guys are not young. But yeah, I think that Klose is going to win. Klose is a good boxer. I think he's going to be the better striker. I mean, Silva is a little bit hittable. He beat Jesse Ronson, didn't he? Yeah, roided Ronson. But yeah, I'm going to be close. That was a horrible breakdown. I do apologize for that one, but I'll be honest, it slipped my mind. Klose is the favorite anyway, minus 190. I could have just pretended I knew what the odds were before recording the video. Let's move on. Michel Pereira taking on Ihel Potieria. Odds come out for this one recently. Michel Pereira is like minus 450. Minus 400 he is. On one sports book, he's minus 270, bet US. So he's going to get bit down to about minus 300. Is kind of what I predicted. But yeah, once again, odd matchups because it's short notice. Potieria is actually booked to fight against a guy that he's also going to lose to. Sharaputdin Magomedov has been cancelled. The UFC has said that Potieria is going to fight Sharaputdin Magomedov if he's cleared. Interesting. I don't think this fight has been cancelled, Tapology. But anyway, this is going to be a fight between a former welterweight and a former light heavyweight, and the welterweight is going to look bigger in the fight. Does it make sense? Not really. Pereira was huge for 170. He's moved up to 185, and he is, to put it bluntly, smoking these bums. He's absolutely smoking these bums. Andrei Petroski, fraud. Mikhail Olechechik, fraud. And Michel Pereira is smoking them. And Ihel Potieria, as I've said in the past, he's fun, but he's okay. Ihel Potieria, he's shit. Trust me. He's got no defense whatsoever. How did he beat Bershek? How did he beat Bershek? How I meant, like, dude, like, the sport makes no sense. The sport makes no sense. I mean, this guy has got no striking defense whatsoever. He's tough, but he's got no chin simultaneously. Like, he got KO'd by Nikolai, got KO'd by Olberg, got KO'd by Rodolfo Beato, who's also a fraud, who's also shit, just shit at fighting. Michel Pereira is going to absolutely demolish this guy in the first round. Michel Pereira knockout in the first round, and then he's going to somehow get cleared to fight Sharaputdin Magomedov, and he's going to get KO'd in the first round again. Picking Pereira by KO in the first, maybe even the first 90 seconds, honestly. Let's move on. Anthony Smith versus Vitor Petrino. Vitor Petrino is incredibly well-rounded out of nowhere, to be honest with you. This guy was a pure striker when he fought in the Contender Series against Bellato in a rematch, knocked that fraud out twice now. Thank you for existing, Petrino. Thank you for existing. And then beat my boy. He beat my favorite fighter of all time, Anton Turkalj. Submitted Pragnell in a fight that was frustrating to watch, I will be honest, because Pragnell definitely could have been knocked out a little bit earlier on that one, but I guess Petrino just wants to show off that wrestling. KO's Bukauskas, who's a good kickboxer, and then beat Tyson Pedro. I think he beats Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, once again, almost old enough to be my father at this point. Man, these guys are getting old. Old. And, dude, Anthony Smith, how many times has Anthony Smith been KO'd? Like 12 times? I mean, he's been KO'd 10 times. Vitor Petrino's going to knock him out. Vitor Petrino, I know that you've seen so much wrestling out of him recently. I think he's smart enough to not wrestle Anthony Smith in this fight because Smith is a very good grappler. I don't think Smith is the best striker, but a striker is definitely very serviceable. He's got decent defense, and he does use his height very, very well. Because he is, although he's 6'4", very, very tall for 205 pounds. You know, you are going to notice the height difference. You are going to notice the length distance. But Anthony Smith also, he leaves his legs pretty open to get leg kicked. So I think that Petrino might have success there. Petrino could wrestle Smith, but Smith is a really good grappler. And I think that it wouldn't be the smartest move for him to do that. But yeah, massive step up for Petrino. But I just think on the feet, I think he's going to be so much more dangerous than Anthony Smith at this point in Anthony Smith's career. And, like, also, like, what's really going on with Smith? You know, like, he just doesn't really make a lot of sense in a lot of his interviews now. Had that moment with Johnny Walker in the cage. I don't know, man. I mean, Anthony Smith, somehow he didn't get knocked out by Ryan Spann, which is weird. I was going to say, did he get KO'd by Johnny? He didn't get knocked out by Johnny Walker either. I mean, all of these guys that should be knocking Anthony Smith out aren't knocking him out. So maybe Petrino wins a decision here. But I'm pretty confident Vitor Petrino is going to knock out Anthony Smith in this fight. But as I said, Anthony Smith, he's a dangerous grappler. He's a good grappler. I just think it comes down to Petrino beating Smith at this point. I just think that Smith, his best days are behind him, in my opinion. I mean, we've seen him take so much damage against Glover Teixeira. Took a lot of damage, I think, he's been knocked out like twice in the last 2 years. What more do I really need to say? Smith is going to get slipped. Petrino at minus 450. I wouldn't parlay that. Jeez, I didn't realize he was that wide. I'm going to go Petrino by KO, though. I think he knocks him out. Caio Borralho versus Paul Craig is a fun fight. Middleweight fight gets Caio Borralho in the rankings, which I feel like he's been deserving of for a long time, because he did come in there against Gazi Amagadziev in his debut, and I picked him to win that fight. Probably one of the only person in the world that picked him to beat Gazi in that matchup. That was a good pick. I'm actually undefeated on Caio Borralho picks because I also picked him to beat Petrosian. I also picked him to beat Muradov. And of course Michel. And of course Abus Magomedov. I'm undefeated on Borralho picks, except when I picked Aaron Jeffrey to beat him on the Contender Series. And that wasn't even a bad pick, to be fair, because Aaron Jeffrey went on to fight for a title in Bellator. So we'll see. Caio Borralho, though, taking on Paul Craig. Paul Craig obviously moved down to 185 recently, but maybe a little bit too late because he's 36 years old now. Man, this whole card is old. Once again, nearly old enough to be my father. I mean, 2 more years older. He could be my dad. He's that old. But yeah, Paul Craig, 36 years old. I mean, we've seen him knocked out before. Johnny Walker slipped him. And then he moved down to 185. Looked really good against Muniz. But Muniz is on a slide right now, man, which is very unfortunate. Got out-grappled by Brendan Allen. I hope Caio Borralho doesn't come into this fight trying to, like, prove a point and out-grapple Paul Craig himself, because I do think that he is going to be the much better striker in the fight. Borralho striking is something that we've seen have a lot of improvements. I thought he looked really good on the feet against a pure boxer in Michel Olachechik. I was quite impressed with his performance in that one there. I think he's going to be better than Paul Craig on the feet. We've seen Paul Craig get KO'd before. Paul Craig's There's one thing about Paul Craig that I'm just going to... I mean, I've said so many things in this video now. I feel like we're just going to have to remove the filter. Paul Craig's a terrible striker again. Like, he's just not a good striker. And to be fair, like, that's fine because it doesn't actually matter. Because Paul Craig, he's so good at grappling. He's so good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's almost kind of like, you know, like he doesn't really need great striking, you know, and this whole fight style kind of reflects that because he doesn't want the fight on the feet anyway. He wants the fight on the ground, and he's willing to pull guard to do that. He's willing to shoot takedowns that might be a little bit sloppy to do that. Like Paul Craig, like he's got bad striking. He does. It's really bad. We all know it. Everyone knows it. But it doesn't matter because he's so good at grappling. And that's what I'm kind of thinking is like Caio Borralho, if he goes out in this one here against Paul Craig and he tries to grapple, he could get caught up in something. He really could, because Craig is big for 185 and he's a really, really good grappler. Caio Borralho, is he a great striker? No, not really. Is he a good grappler? Yes, very good grappler. Why run that risk when you can strike with Paul Craig for 15 minutes and potentially get a knockout over him? I'm going to go Borralho. If he fights this fight smart, he beats Paul Craig by decision in a striking fight, which is probably pretty boring. If he fights this fight dumb, maybe he does get a finish trying to chase something on the ground where he gets finished himself. Or maybe he does knock out Paul Craig because, I don't know, maybe Paul Craig at 185 pounds, maybe the chin's not there. He's 36 years old, as I said. Like, he's old, man. Like, he's old. I think Borralho might be able to knock him out. Caio Borralho, minus 450. Let's move on. Jonathan Martinez taking on Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, old enough to be my dad. Craziness. This whole card is so old, man. Like, damn, I kind of thought, like, with MMA at the moment, like, I'm so used to seeing fighters that are younger than me, and me feeling really, really bad about myself and how I'm at university doing math tests and not passing, you know. And I'm like, man, like, you know, there's like this 20-year-old in the UFC. Oh, look, Yasmin Lucindo, she's 22 years old. She's already had a couple UFC fights, and here I am sitting on my ass in my bedroom. But anyway, Jose Aldo, 37 years old. Dude. Aldo's coming out of retirement for this fight. That's my problem with it. Because, and even now, like, Aldo's talking about boxing. You know, he's talking about boxing because that's what he's been doing. You know, he's been boxing these guys, you know, and although he did have that fun fight against Stevens, he's just been absolute bums, man. Like, this Zebrano guy is like 0-4, 0-6. To be fair, he probably wouldn't knock my lights out because he actually doesn't look that bad at boxing. I mean, Aldo couldn't finish him, but just absolute cans he's beaten in boxing, and now, you know, he's coming back to the UFC, and by the sounds of it, it sounds like he's coming out of retirement to do it. And I'm kind of looking at Jonathan Martinez like, yeah, I think Martinez is a little bit one-dimensional. I do think that Martinez lost that fight against Said Nurmagomedov as well. And yeah, once again, that win over Adrian Yanez ain't actually that great, because now Yanez is fighting an absolute cannon in his next fight. Like talk about a fall from grace. Adrian Yanez taking on an absolute bum. And Vinicius Salvador, like, what are they doing here, man? But anyway, and like, I'm looking at Aldo, and I'm just looking at Aldo, like, coming out of retirement for this matchup. And he's been boxing, you know, like, I understand that boxing and MMA, especially in this fight, are going to transition pretty well because it's Jose Aldo. He's been doing it all of his life. Potentially the greatest featherweight of all time. I mean, it depends on how, kind of what you go with. Not going to get into that argument in this video. I do think it's Volkanovski, but no, is it? I don't know if it is Volk. I think it could be Aldo. Anyway, I'm getting confused. No, I think it's got to be Aldo. I think Aldo still is the greatest featherweight of all time. Sorry, Volk. I do think Aldo is the greatest featherweight of all time. How do I? The wrong video. I'm gonna pick Martinez. Aldo's coming out of retirement. He's boxing. He's not doing MMA. Martinez is on a massive win streak. I really want to pick Aldo. I really, really, really do. But I feel like I've got to put the bias aside. Put my hope. No, but it's the King of Rio. It's the King of Rio. I'm going to have to make a separate video on this probably later in the week. I don't even know. Aldo's the dog. Martinez is the favorite. The King of Rio is coming back. I mean, now Martinez is going to get booed. This is his first time in front of a massive crowd. And they're going to be booing him. They're going to be cheering Aldo, the King of Rio. No, but this fight was made on short notice as well, kind of. I mean, like, oh, I just don't know. I'm going to go with Martinez. It's a good matchup for Aldo, though, you know, especially because he's been boxing. He's a very good striker, obviously. I mean, one of the greatest strikers in featherweight history. Martinez, do I think he beat Said? No. Do I think that win over Yanez is any good? No. Aldo as well is really good at leg kicks himself. Martinez is good at leg kicks. It's going to be the story of the fight. But let's move on to the main event. This is going to be like, this is interesting because I feel like picking a minus 230 favorite shouldn't be a hot take. But it feels like it might be. I am going to be picking Pantoja to win this fight, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be very upset with that pick because there's a lot of people in the YouTube space that I'm seeing picking Erceg, interviewing Erceg as well. Shout out to Benny PMMA, pretty good interview with Erceg. I really liked watching it. But and I like Erceg as well. Like, I was talking to Erceg's gym like before he even signed to the UFC, asking when he was going to sign to the UFC on Instagram, and here he is fighting for the title. But yeah, as I said, a lot of people are going to be picking Erceg. A lot of people are probably going to be a little bit disappointed that I'm betraying them by picking Pantoja. But like, when it comes to the prediction on who I think is going to win, I do think that Alejandro Pantoja beats Steven Erceg in this fight, and I do think that what we've seen from Steven Erceg has been absolutely incredible, but I also think that Alejandro Pantoja can go through Steve Erceg's fights in the UFC and find things that he can exploit, because I look at this fight against Alessandro Costa and I see Alessandro Costa. I probably think that Alessandro Costa is like 10 times the fighter that he actually is, to be fair, but I think that Alessandro Costa is really good. And I look at this and I compare him to Pantoja because they're similar. Alejandro Pantoja, is he the most technical guy? Yes, I had a rant earlier on in the video talking about how you've got to be technical at 125 pounds and how Borjas isn't. Pantoja's not. He's not a technical striker at all. In fact, I would say the better boxing technique probably is on the Erceg side. But you look at Pantoja's striking style, and he does kind of has his hands relatively low, but also tucked with his chin, and he just runs forward, and he gets aggressive, and that's what Costa did, and had success against Erceg. Matt Schnell was able to land on Erceg when he was going first, and that matchup against Matt Schnell, Erceg had the most success when he was going first and fighting from his own range, whereas Schnell was trying to close the distance and shoot for takedowns and kind of do his own thing. But when he engaged in a firefight with Erceg, that's where he got, first of all, knocked out, but also where he got hurt in the first round as well in his own right. But when Matt Schnell was doing his own thing, was dictating his pace, he hurt Erceg. He had Erceg in a little bit of trouble in that first round, and Erceg even shot for a very sloppy takedown in that first round. But I do want to say as well, one thing from Erceg that I got out of that match now fight is that his takedown defense is very good, and I do think that Pantoja is going to struggle to take down Erceg because I think that's what he's going to try and do. Now, don't get me wrong, Steven Erceg, in my opinion, is a better grappler than he is a striker. We haven't seen that grappling in the UFC yet, which is kind of crazy to say because he's beaten Dvorak, he's beaten, or Vocek, sorry, I should say. He's beaten Costa, and he's beaten Schnell, and he hasn't needed to use his grappling to do it, which is very impressive, in my opinion. But I think on the feet, Steve Erceg, he's going to be a sniper on the feet. He's going to potentially be a little bit low volume, whereas Pantoja, he's going to be doing what he does, running forward like an absolute maniac with his chin down and throwing overhands. And I do think that's going to give Erceg trouble on the feet. It's going to back him up, and that's what Costa did to have a lot of his own success in this matchup. And another one as well is you got to kind of look at the level of competition, in my opinion, too, because I look at Alejandro Pantoja. He beat Brandon Moreno for the third time. He's beaten Moreno 3 times. He's like the Nuggets of the Lakers, unless the Lakers can come back from 0-3 and win the 7-game series. But like the Lakers are what, like 11-0? Sorry, 0-11 versus the Nuggets. It's like Moreno and Pantoja. Moreno's just never going to be able to beat Pantoja. I feel like the Lakers at the moment can't beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series. And then you go to Royval, and Pantoja just beat Royval. And Royval, guess what he just did? He just beat Brandon Moreno, who's like everyone's favorite flyweight ever, which is interesting because Pantoja beat him 3 times. And I think Pantoja's a really fun fighter too. I love Pantoja, man. I'm probably one of his biggest fans on YouTube right now. But I will be honest, his fights since he's become the champion have been very boring compared to what they used to be, because Pantoja's fights used to be absolute wars. Absolute wars. This guy would go out there like a maniac and throw super high volume, leave himself open. And to be fair, I think that the Moreno fight versus Pantoja is one of the better fights that you can watch. There are a couple boring rounds in there, but it still is one of the better fights that was put on last year. People just don't like it because Moreno lost. Moreno lost that fight. Pantoja won. And I think this could be a war as well, because you've got Erceg, who I'm sure is going to be coming out here with a point to prove. He's going to be seeing this as his big opportunity. And he's going to be thinking, hey, if I'm going to get into a war with Pantoja, I've got sneaky power, and he does. I didn't realize that Erceg had that kind of KO power against Matt Schnell. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and no disrespect to Erceg, I'm like, but it's Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell's got worse defense than Cody Garbrandt in the pocket. Matt Schnell has been KO'd 5 times. And Pantoja knocked out Matt Schnell. I was going to say, Pantoja knocked him out faster. It doesn't mean anything, I know, but he still knocked him out faster. And then Nicolau finished Schnell. Royval finished Schnell in 2 minutes and a bit. Matt Schnell was beating on Sumarajiri. Sumarajiri was beating the piss out of Matt Schnell until Matt Schnell made that comeback. Matt Schnell's not that good, I don't know. I have no disagreement with Erceg getting the title shot as well. I don't want anyone to kind of think that I actually made a video when the fight was announced in support of Erceg getting the title shot, because if you do look at it, Pantoja's cleaned out the division before he even become the champion. And now, because he cleaned out the division, he's got no one else to fight. If you look at his wins, he beat Cup, it's an argument there, to be fair, but he beat Cup. He beat Royval twice. He beat Alex Perez, who's on a losing streak. But anyway, it's either Erceg or Mikhaev. And I like that Pantoja's doing this, because this is telling me that Pantoja wants to be an active UFC champion, And if he has to, he'll happily fight the number 9 guy or the number 10 guy or whatever Erceg is ranked to be that active champion. Like, you might even see Alejandro Pantoja, if he gets past even Erceg, fight Mikhaev in 4 months. You know what I mean? And I do think that Pantoja is going to do it. I understand that a lot of people want Erceg to win, and to be fair, it'll be fun. I'm a really big fan of Pantoja, though, so I've kind of got... Part of me wants Pantoja to win, part of me wants Erceg to win, but my prediction genuinely is Pantoja. I've seen people with a similar striking style to Alejandro Pantoja give Steven Erceg trouble on the feet before. Alejandro Pantoja, I believe, is a multiple-time national jiu-jitsu champion in Brazil. I'm pretty confident in that, but I also think he's been a world champion in Brazilian jiu-jitsu before. I could be incorrect on that one, so... And I know that Erceg's best trait is his grappling, so he's going to be willing to engage in that grappling, but I don't think he can out-grapple Pantoja. And a lot of people as well, from what I'm seeing, think that Pantoja's got no gas tank. I don't know. I think if you go into this fight against Pantoja relying on Pantoja gassing out, I think you're going to be disappointed, because Pantoja took the 5th round against Brandon Moreno, you know, at the end of the day, and he pushed through a very heavy pace to do so, and also potentially an adrenaline jump in the adrenaline dump in the first round after he dropped Moreno as well, and he pushed through it. You know, Royval won some of the later rounds. I think that I don't think you can't rely on Royval gassing out. Sorry, on Pantoja gassing out in this matchup at all. I think that Pantoja is going to push a pace. I think he's going to give Erceg trouble on the feet, even though I think that Erceg is the better technical boxer for sure. And I think he's going to be able to get his takedowns. I think he's going to struggle to get them because, as I said, Erceg did show that he's got very good takedown defense against match now. But Pantoja's going to work, you know. He's going to wear on you. He's going to backpack you. I think he's going to wear on Steve Erceg. I think Pantoja wins the fight. 4th round submission. After a bit of a war, Erceg might win a round. Pantoja might drop him. I think it's going to be a fun fight, though, man. This is a good fight. This is a good matchup. Again, with the pay-per-view, do I think it should be a pay-per-view? No. I think there should be one of those numbered cards that's free, because I feel like a lot of people don't know who Alejandro Pantoja even is. You know, Pantoja, I think, is the least followed UFC champion, which is crazy. And now he's taking on Steve Erceg, who I don't think has much of a following either. I feel like they're really kind of just banking on people wanting to buy the UFC brand or the Jose Aldo return. But yeah, this is a good card. I do want to say this. I love this card. I think it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.